Hello, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Hi, Rihanna.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And how are you?
I'm good, just storming, not really storming, but it's quite windy in the UK.
Right, okay. It's quite stormy and windy here where I am as well. So it's kind of autumn weather, right?
Exactly. I was saying, prepare ourselves. Winter's coming.
Absolutely. And that's why we decided to have this absolutely thriving, smashing Facebook Live session on performance management, one of
Yeah.
the themes that I'm really, really passionate about. And
Mm.
I was really excited to hear that you are passionate about performance management as well. So,
Yes, for me, when I sit down with my clients, I look at in terms of how do you know you're achieving what needs to be achieved? And that's where performance management comes in.
absolutely, absolutely. And yes, let's introduce ourselves to
Mhm.
the audience. So I'm Inga Zara, personal brand and leadership development partner. And I work with professionals, with business leaders, and with small, medium companies to help individuals to shine and be their personal best, to help leaders be better leaders and make better impact in the world and business, and to help companies succeed overall. So, what about you, Ryan? What are you doing now?
So what am I doing now? So in terms of me, I'm Rehana Jaino from Constantia Consulting. I am an organizational psychologist and I help businesses to achieve their growth through their people because I believe you're only as good as the people that are around you. I work
Absolutely.
predominantly with small businesses that do not need a full-time HR person on site, but they do need what I call HR on tap. So I'm available as and when they require me. But I do work for corporates as well, and I focus on projects for them. So from audits to going in, rewriting policies, procedures, assisting on projects in aligning the various divisions and bringing them under one umbrella. So I would say it would be a variety of things within the HR world.
Yeah, fantastic. Recently, during the last year, I had the opportunity to work with some startup companies who have grown from small startup to a massive, big global company,
Mm,
and with some corporates as well. And one thing that I've noticed, it doesn't matter whether it's small, medium, or big size company.
yeah,
One thing that is common that we as leaders could do performance management better.
yeah.
It doesn't matter which country, as in some countries where I facilitated workshops on
Mm,
performance management and leadership excellence. In some countries, people say, well, we don't do performance management. In some countries, they say we're well advanced in performance management. However, one of the common things what I've seen is that we can all do better performance management
yeah,
and we can all do feedback as one of performance management
yeah,
tools better.
yeah, yeah.
Have you noticed that as well?
Yes, no, I agree with you. I mean, as you know, I am from South Africa originally,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been in the UK for 13 years now, but both in South Africa and in the UK, I've worked for various organizations. Over the last few years, obviously in my own company and working with various clients from small, medium enterprises to corporates. And similar to you, I have found that some of them use performance management quite effectively, and then there are others who just do it to tick the boxes,
Yeah.
and then there are others that say no, we don't need it. Our employees perform quite well.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do find that there's a fear around performance management, and it's more in terms of not wanting to give negative feedback to the employee.
Yeah. Let's talk
And
about that.
yeah, and that's where that fear comes from,
Mm.
because obviously in the performance feedback, you think it's only negative feedback you're giving, but it's not. It could be positive feedback as well. But
Absolutely.
when I sit down and explain to them, this is what you can achieve through performance management, looking at it's you're helping individuals to develop, you're identifying areas of development. But secondly, you're improving the company performance because you're linking your objectives to the company objectives. And you're also looking in terms of how do I feed it back into my business plan. So overall, I would say it monitors your standards, you agree on expectations with your employee, and you set your objectives, and then you also identify training needs. And once I explain that to them, they go like, I've had a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
And now I can see how I can use performance management and performance feedback quite effectively.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. And that's the mindset shift that is helpful for leaders. It's from this negative kind of feeling about performance management. It should be actually performance management should be something that helps individuals to shine and be their personal best, to contribute to teams and to company goals achievements. And
exactly.
to provide better customer service. So it's the mindset shift that we need to do as leaders in our heads, that I come into performance management conversation or feedback conversation with the intention that I want to help the individual. And the individual has started or joined the company to perform well, as everyone who joins, most of the people who join the companies, they want to really excel. They want to do their best, and they want to be kind of noticed and valued for the value they provide for the company.
Exactly.
And that's why when we start the conversation or when we start the feedback, providing feedback moments with intent that I want to help the individual, I want to help them be even better in what they do, or help them improve in their performance. Then this, as you say, the light bulb moment or aha moment comes to leaders. Actually, yes, it's about being better, and it's about helping my people to shine and be their personal best at work.
Yeah, and that's so true. And what I also tell my hiring managers or even my clients is that you're only as good as a team around you. And as much as you're helping your team shine, they help you shine.
Absolutely.
Because if they deliver exceptional work, it's you that's going to stand out to management. Yes, you're going to give credit to the team, but they've helped you bring you to that point where you also get the recognition.
Yes.
And so it's actually teamwork if you think about it. And it's employees and managers helping each other in that process. But I think the biggest challenge, or the single biggest challenge in achieving the business goals, is probably how do I link the output that my employees need to deliver to my business outputs. And being able to see how they do that. But once they understand the tools that they get to do that, it just becomes easy. And that's when employees start thriving, start shining, start knowing what they have to accomplish. And once they do that, as I said, ultimately at the end of the day, they make the manager shine as well.
Absolutely. And it all starts sometimes, especially recently, I've been noticing that sometimes leaders and managers come to me and they say, well, I'm really not happy about this employee's performance. And I want to fire this employee as they're not performing at all. And when we have a conversation, so tell me, are they aware? What are their goals, and what are you expecting them to achieve? And the leader says, well, it's obvious they should be aware. I said, well, have you had a conversation with them, and have you set smart goals for them, and have they agreed to these goals? Have they understood these goals? As goal setting is kind of the very basic, one of the simple but really impactful tools to start your performance management, is to make sure that both of you and your employee are aligned and clear on expectations and goals, and to have this conversation that this is what I expect. What do you think about it? What support needs from me as your leader to be able to achieve it? How excited you are about achieving this, how it will help you in your development, in your professional development. And only then we can start kind of first supporting employees to deliver on the goals and KPIs, and also start measuring performance and giving feedback that either they are doing really great, and these are the things they are doing great, being specific about the feedback, Or
Exactly.
if they're not happy about the performance, then give developmental feedback and help employees understand what exactly they could do differently. And this is one of the mistakes that it's quite common mistake by leaders, especially quite new leaders and in small medium companies where they haven't had this performance management training year on year yet, that they kind of assume that employees need to know the goals and the expectations.
Yes.
Or they assume that they have understood the goals and expectations. And sometimes when the leader comes to me and we have this conversation, they go back to their team, to their employees, and they have this goal setting and KPI setting conversation. And after a while, they come back to me and they say, well, I was wrong. Actually, this employee is performing really great. He's a star in my team.
Yeah.
So this might happen as well.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. There is that assumption that, oh no, they need to know what they need to do at the end of the day, what they need to deliver on, because they applied for the job and they got the job. So therefore, I'm assuming they know what they need to deliver on. And that's where the biggest mistake come in, is the assumption that gets made. I think if we look at some of the common mistakes also that managers or leaders make, would be in terms of not preparing for the discussion. Just thinking, oh, this will be fine, let's go into it, and then walk kind of into a minefield when they're busy having the discussion with the employee. But you mentioned something which was quite important, in that, go and have the discussion with the employee in terms of, these are the objectives. Is that how you see it? What do you think? And I think what leaders also need to understand is that it's a two-way conversation. It's not only them setting the objectives, but it's asking the employee for their input as well.
Absolutely.
And also, it just makes it much more easier if it's two heads thinking about how we're going to measure this.
Yes.
And with the employee doing the actual work, they can come up with ideas saying, I think this is how you can measure it. This is how you can get back on this. But I think what's also quite important is that when you do give feedback, and this is both for leaders and employees, is that provide examples. Remember, you talked about being specific. And by being specific is to say, I think you get this rating, this is the reason why, and then you give the examples as to why you're giving that rating. For me, you're keeping to the facts and you're taking the emotion out of what you're discussing as well.
Yes, and as well, you bring the clarity for
exactly
with examples, as then the employee understands better what exactly he or she could improve or do differently when there are specific examples.
Yeah. No. And when they understand that, and when the moment you go, you explain to them why they're providing the examples, then you're also you're substantiating to the employee or to the leader, this is why I think I need this rating, or this is the reason I gave you this rating.
Absolutely.
And you've got the evidence. Let's talk about it that way. So again, it's measurable because you've got the feedback and you can show it. And so that's where your measurement comes in.
Yeah, and it feels fair to employee because they kind of feel that, yes, this is the reality check. It's not personal. It's not subjective. It's a reality check. I wanted to pause here and encourage people who are watching us, say hi. And if you have any questions regarding performance management, regarding leadership development, feedback, please post them in the comments. We will pick them up either during this session or afterwards. We will definitely answer all the questions. Even if you kind of, after some time, having listened or tuned in, you think, oh, well, I had a question about feedback. Don't hesitate. Please write it under this video, as we will definitely pick them up during this week and the following weeks. We are aiming to have these so-called performance excellence conversations on a weekly basis with Rihanna, as we saw, both of us saw that this is one of the topics which actually is really important for business leaders, for entrepreneurs, and for business owners. As you all are guys thinking about how to improve business performance, and you can improve business performance through people performance, right?
Exactly.
So we will be doing more of these sessions, and we will do them on a weekly basis. We will announce that in advance, so you can kind of schedule the time and tune in. And please, if you find this valuable for your network, for your friends and colleagues, please do like and share. They appreciate that these valuable insights go around, and pay it further if you learned something, or if you find something valuable, or even if you knew it and kind of got reminded of some things, then please share it forward, as many more people might benefit.
Exactly. I agree fully with you, because what we're trying to share with the audience out there is that your employees ultimately becomes the ambassador for your business.
Yeah.
And we want to help you to grow your business, become successful. And we like to reach out to you, but similarly, we'd like to reach out to your network as well. And we will be on hand to answer any questions. We will talk later about a workshop we will be delivering soon. But if there's any questions and things you think we should cover in the workshop as well, then let us know, because obviously we can't cover everything in detail on these discussions we're going to be having on a weekly basis, but we can see how we can incorporate it into the workshop.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so I was just thinking about the workshop, and I was thinking, on this session though, I'd like just to share a tool that people can apply immediately, and it doesn't only have to be in a performance feedback session. It's when they're having a discussion with someone, and I call it the sandwich model. And I think it is out there, and I think it is something named under another model, but I like the sandwich model because I think about it as two breads and the filling, two slices of bread and the filling in the middle. So when you give feedback to someone, I normally say, look at giving the positive feedback first, and then the filling would be where you're giving them feedback on how to develop, or what they need to develop on, or what they're not doing so well, and then end that conversation with positive feedback again. Because that's what people will remember when you're in the conversation, will be the positive feedback. But if you end off with a negative feedback, it just gives a different feel to that conversation that they had with you.
Yeah, I also say that you first need to earn the right to provide developmental feedback. So start with something that people are doing really well, and then you have earned the credit to provide developmental feedback. And I usually I try to teach leaders to shift the mindset. I noticed that you also mentioned negative feedback. I try to teach leaders to shift the mindset from thinking about that it's negative to thinking about it's developmental.
Exactly.
It's in our mindset that if we think it's developmental, then it's easier for us to provide, and it comes out as developmental rather than negative as well.
I agree with you. And funny enough, when I do interviews, one of the questions which managers love asking is, tell me about your positive points and your negative points. And then I get them to turn that question around. And I said, positive points is fine, but why don't we ask the question in terms of, talk to me about the areas that you'd like to still develop in, and what's the reason for wanting to develop in that areas. And so, just like you said, it just gives us a different feel already, highlighting it that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then it's easier for the person to share it as well.
Exactly.
Thinking about it from developmental perspective rather than negative perspective.
Exactly. And like you were talking earlier on about having the credibility to be able to give that development feedback, I think it's also quite important to earn the trust of the person to whom you're going to be giving that feedback. Because if they don't trust you in being able to give that feedback, it means they don't believe in what you're going to be telling them. So it's quite important you're consistent in terms of how you provide that feedback.
Absolutely. And that's one of my passion teams, which is leadership personal brands. It's
Yeah.
your trust, credibility, and authenticity as a leader, and how you as leader walk the talk, and how you deliver yourself, and how passionate and driven and enthusiastic you are yourself in the business. As,
Exactly.
I've done recently research across 5 countries with one client, researching questions about employee engagement and and one of the things that or one of the concepts people talked about in the interviews that I did across these countries was that people want to feel valued, and they come to work and they feel engaged when they feel valued. And then I dig deeper to get more insight. What do they mean by feeling valued? And what do leaders need to do for them to feel valued? And one of the key answers was consistently coming from people was that they want to get more feedback. They want to receive more feedback on how they're doing, how they're performing, what they are doing well, and what they need to improve.
Yeah.
It was consistent message across all the countries that people want to have more feedback. It was almost like I heard it like picketing. Give us more feedback. Give us more feedback. And, that's kind of it's a simple tool, but when you do it right, then actually people become massive advocates as you as leader. They become massive promoters of your concept and your strategy, and they are ready to work like 24/7 to deliver. Not that we want them to work 24/7; they have to have the life as well, and
be
mindful. But the feedback massively develops engagement, enthusiasm, and focus in the business. Focus on the right things.
And, no, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Because I think the other thing as well is that, funny enough, I was having a session with an acquaintance last week, and we're talking about employee surveys and engagement and feedback that people look for. And what I mentioned as well, which is what's quite important, is that when employees give you feedback and there are things that you as a leader need to do, then you need to action it.
Yeah.
Because that's also when you start building up credibility, because then they realize that you are interested in them as an individual and not only as an employee, and you're taking on board what they are telling you. And you are listening to them. And I think that's a key thing. They can see that you're listening to them because you're providing, you're actioning the feedback that they're giving you.
Yeah, that's builds credibility as leader. That they say that you're not faking it.
Exactly.
You're really passionately interested in what they care about, what your employees care about, what's important to them, and what they would appreciate to have different in business or any behavior.
Yeah. Talking about behavior, I think as human beings, we overcomplicate things and we want to make it so difficult. And that's why when we spoke about mistakes earlier on, I think one of the challenges or one of the scary things for people is because we complicate it and we don't keep it simple enough, we tend to not want to do it. But by just keeping the simple strategies in place, which we'll be showing people on the workshop, they can see how easy it would be to implement some of the strategies and then do the performance reviews and performance feedback.
Yeah, and in this workshop, we have really broken down simple steps and providing simple tools.
Exactly.
To really enhance employees' performance.
Yeah.
About behavior, you reminded actually one concept that I'm also using and advising leaders is that feedback should not be about the person, but about the behavior.
Exactly.
Again, it's a mindset shift that if you think and provide feedback to your employee as about him as a person, because it will definitely be different than they think about themselves as persons. But if you provide feedback about their behavior, they will see what they need to change or what they need to continue doing.
Exactly.
Behavior.
Yeah, I agree with you. And ironically enough, last night I did a presentation to a cohort of startup businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really in their startup phase. But the project leader of that cohort asked me to do a presentation in terms of what are the steps they have to follow when they have to appoint the first employee. And we spoke about the job description, and I said, that's your first point of call. And what I think managers don't realize, as well as your leaders, is that you can use your job description as well to set your objectives.
Mm-hmm.
And in your job description, you'll have the behavior set out in terms of how people need to do the work. And again, it becomes so much more easier because you've got it there already, and you can, like you say, refer people to the behaviors in terms of what are they doing correctly and where do they still need to improve.
Absolutely. And it's like for starting base, the job description and the focus of the role. And it's a great starting base because both of you are aligned on that. And
exactly
with that. Another tool that I advise leaders on is so-called noticing and naming tool.
Mm-hmm.
So that's absolutely essential for the feedback that you as leader constantly notice what people are doing well or what they need to do differently and name it. Don't just think about it in your head because people can't read your thoughts and they can't read your mind. Tell it, name it,
yes.
and use this tool constantly every day as we as human beings could do more of this ourselves, noticing what's happening around, what's happening with our people, and naming it, sharing that with them, what we are noticing, what great things they're doing, and what are the things that they need to improve or do differently.
Okay, I agree with you. And also the other thing as well is that, and while you were talking, this just came to mind, is that to not wait for the performance feedback session. Yeah. Feedback is a continuous process. Yeah. And yes, you're going to have your performance reviews, and different companies schedule it differently within organizations. Some do it quarterly, some do it twice a year, some do it once a year. But whenever you have it, don't let it be that first session when people hear things for the first time. It's a continuous feedback loop. So like you were saying, name it when you see it. So if you see somebody doing something quite well, praise them then and there, and then you can still make a note of it to bring it up in the performance appraisal, the performance feedback session.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, there will be no big surprises, as we don't want to have surprises in performance management conversation. We want to have valuable conversation. We want to have some insights and sharing feedback, but we don't want to have surprises in performance management conversation.
Yeah, it should not be seen as a stick to beat people.
Yeah, it should be more like for development and for, as I call it, for inspiration and empowerment.
Exactly. But it also, as an employee, gives me an indication of how am I progressing. And because as people and as humans, we look for the, what's the word I'm looking for? The validation.
Yeah.
That we're doing a good job.
And
that's where that comes in.
Yeah, and through that, as I heard from these employees that I interviewed in these clients' offices, that through validation we feel valued.
Exactly.
What we are doing matters, and that someone cares to notice it. Someone cares to have a couple of minutes coffee conversation time and give us feedback, and that massively develops engagement, it develops focus, and it develops kind of delivery, and make sure that employees are focusing on delivering the right outcomes.
Exactly. And I think what's also quite important is that similarly, when you see somebody doing something good and giving that feedback, if you do see, there's areas where they can improve upon, and you overheard a conversation or you saw something that they're working on a project for you, bring them one side and say, I noticed this. Can I give you some advice in terms of how you could maybe look at it differently? What do you think about that? Because at the same way, you're providing the feedback. And like you said earlier on, by the time it comes to performance review and performance feedback, it does not come as a surprise. But it gives them also the opportunity to develop and have developed that already by the time they come to their performance feedback.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So I'll pause it here and see if we have any questions or comments.
Yeah.
And I would like to encourage our listeners, please do share if any questions, if any comments, if any inspiration, any thoughts that you picked up from this session, please do share, as we are happy to share our experience and our insights with you. And in a way that helps us when you are providing comments or questions, that helps us to understand whether this has been as of value for you, what kind of questions do you have. And as Juliana mentioned, we're developing performance management workshop and planning to roll it out at the beginning of December. So it will also help to make sure that it's very practical for you, that we can integrate all the questions that you have asked in the workshop as well, as we have developed it, but we want to make sure to tailor it to you to make it really practical and valuable. And as more questions you will ask, more we can tailor it to your needs and to your interests. If you have this question, somebody else might have this question.
Exactly.
So please do ask.
Yeah.
I see that we don't have any questions currently, but well, hey, as mentioned earlier, if any question pops in your mind later on, please do share, write it under this video, and we will pick it up and we will definitely answer. And with this, I would like to conclude our first live session with you, Rihanna, and thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your valuable insights and experience. And yes, from the questions, if there will be any under this video, or if somebody will PM us, we will see what's the next theme for next week on performance management, and we will schedule timely, so you will know all when to join and when to kind of plan the time to and prepare questions as well, what to ask live, as live is always best, but yeah, later can be done as well.
Exactly. And just to add on in terms of what you've said, Inga, is if you want us to focus on something specifically in our next Facebook Live session, pop it in the comments box. Let's see if we can accommodate your request. Because we'd like to work with you. And at the same time, it's a learning process for both of us, because we learn from everybody. As much as we have the information to share with you, it's a process where we also want to learn from you.
Fantastic. I love that. That we are all learning together. I like learning constantly, like from any question that I get from clients, from colleagues, from customers, from peers and business partners. It's kind of it helps us learn, and it helps us grow together as well.
Exactly. And sometimes for me, if there's a better way of doing things, I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. Let me see how I can implement that. Let me see if it will work for me. Because sometimes somebody comes up with an idea that is like, oh, I think that should be told to everyone. Let's discuss that.
Yeah. Super. Awesome. Well, thank you, Rihanna. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Inga.
And thank you for questions that will be coming. I'm sure they will. And see you all next week.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.